Hey everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of Psychedelic. I'm Mike Brancatelli. Thanks for joining us today. We got a guest on the show today. Very happy to have Kevin Matthews, who is the campaign director of Decriminalize Denver, which is a amazing organization in Denver, Colorado that is trying to decriminalize psilocybin mushrooms in 2019. They are working hard around the clock, collecting signatures to decriminalize the adult possession, use, and propagation of our favorite psychoactive fungi, the old psilocybin mushroom. And I mean, can we just pause for a moment and let that sink in? That this is happening. People are out there. They're taking initiative. And when I heard about this, I just had to have Kevin on the show. I had to talk with him. I had to connect with him. I'm glad I did. So, this is a really amazing thing. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to decriminalizedenver.org. You can help support them. If you're in Denver, find one of these people and sign their petition. Get psilocybin mushrooms decriminalized. I mean, think about that, right? Are you eating a mushroom from the ground? Yes, officer, I am. Well, it better not have anything in there that makes your head go all nice and peaceful like. Oh, no, don't worry. It's just a portobello, officer. All right, good, because I was going to have to shoot you if it had anything in it that would make you happy. So let's increase happiness and peace and prosperity and bring Mother Nature back into the non-criminal realm and push this conversation forward, get people talking and engaged and learning about the benefits of psilocybin mushrooms and all these great things. And we're going to talk about that on today's show with Kevin. Before we get into the show, you guys know what to do. If you like this show, if you love this show, please message me on Facebook, Instagram, find me, email me. I love talking with each and every single one of you that reach out to me and ask me questions. I love all of that stuff. Leave a rating and review. You can go on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating and review. That would be amazing. Helps signal to the rest of the world that there's something happening here and that, people should check it out. And if you believe that, then go ahead and do that. You could also go on to Patreon at patreon.com/Mike Brank. You can donate as little as $1 a month. Don't feel obligated. Don't feel pressured. I just say this stuff because you never know. There could be some money bags walking around out there listening to Psychedelic going, holy shit, what am I going to do with all these, with this fiat currency, with these Federal Reserve notes that are just burning holes in my pocket? I don't know what to do with them. I wish I could send them somewhere and do something with them. Well, you can. You can send them to me, and I'll buy new microphones and foam crates that I could put around the walls that'll make the sound better, and all that other good stuff. I'll be able to get a van and travel around the country and talk to these people in person because that's what I really want to do. And just make the show better. So thank you to everybody that supports and does stuff and talks about it and shares it and messages me. And we also have that WhatsApp chat group. It's the Psychedelic Inner Sanctum that I like to call it, kind of a reference to Doctor Strange and the Sanctums. And one of the coolest Marvel movies, totally psychedelic and awesome movie. And, maybe you can rewatch that movie when you're chilling in Denver and just, popping mushrooms, because it's not a problem. And you can just enjoy your life like a normal, peaceful human being. All right, I'm going to keep this intro a little short because I'm in a old school apartment doing this podcast intro from a location, and it's an old school apartment that was built in like 1640 or some shit like that, and it has one of those radiators that blasts heat out, and you can't control it. I can't let me turn the heat down a little bit. There is none of that. It's just, you have to do this like weird battle where you open the window. How much am I going to open the window? And then, the radiator's just blasting heat out. It's like a fucking sauna in here, and I'm starting to lose my goddamn mind. I need some psilocybin, actually. I think that would help calm me down. Unfortunately, I could be shot dead by a police officer if he sees me eating a mushroom in public. All right. Clearly, you can tell I'm on the brink over here. It's very hot in this apartment, and I have no way to control the heat. It's about 104 degrees, and it is a sauna in here. I'm burning up. I'm gonna go outside naked and enjoy the nice 30-degree cold weather after this. It's gonna be great. Okay, so yeah, that's all the stuff basically I wanted to say. We have 2 sponsors for the show: Hemp Bombs, amazing CBD products. Go to hempbombs.com and enter the code Mike15, and you get 15% off. They're amazing CBD products. I love the gummies, the tincture, the pain freeze. It's all good. They have vaporizer stuff too. Really the only CBD that's worked for me. I love it. It's great. So go there, check it out if you're interested in CBD. Enter the code Mike15 and you get 15% off. bsynchro.com is where you can go and get ketogenic nutrition products and plant-based nutrition products optimized for brain performance at the highest levels with amazing quality. I use some of this stuff every day. I use their probiotics. I use their turmeric elixir. I eat the ketogenic chocolate fudge, which it's like a ridiculous chocolate mousse dessert that has no sugar and no carbs, and it's amazing. And their protein shakes are great, plant protein. It's not one of those like crappy proteins where you try it and it's like all chalky. Their stuff tastes amazing. It's made with super high quality stuff, and it's just really, really, really great. I absolutely love both of these sponsors, and I'm glad to talk about them. Go to bsynchro, bsynchro.com, and enter the code Psychedelic at checkout, and you get 20% off. So how about that? All right, great. All that stuff's out of the way. Go and do whatever you want or don't. I'm just glad that you guys have popped this thing on. You got your earbuds in. You fucking, you got your Bluetooth hooked up in the car, whatever the fuck you're doing, and you're ready to just get your Psychedelic on with me. And thank you so much to Kevin for being on the show. It was a pleasure speaking with him, and hope to do it again in person, because I will be out in Denver in about a month and a half. So, and I look forward to offering my support in their initiative as well. And you can also do that too when you go on decriminalizedenver.org. Like I said, you just have all these Federal Reserve notes, this stained tinted green paper with all these dead white slave owners on them, and you're just like, man, what the hell am I going to do with these things? They're just so many of them. I don't know what to do. I could buy like 25 bags of barbecued Lay's potato chips, or you could contribute it to help getting psilocybin mushrooms decriminalized in Denver. And even if you don't live in Denver, that's still a pretty fucking awesome thing to do, because then we can show people, hey, individual freedom, liberty, cognitive liberty, the right to choose how what to consume, how to alter your mind, your consciousness, how to connect with spirit and something bigger. It's up to you and no one else. And you can't make nature illegal. And we're going to change the hearts and minds of people. And hopefully Decriminalize Denver will be doing that coming this May. So go support them and support me and support your fucking selves too. All right. Without further ado, thank you all so much for listening. Let's get into this conversation with Kevin Matthews from Decriminalize Denver.
Psychedelics are illegal not because a loving government is concerned that you may jump out of a third-story window. Psychedelics are illegal because they dissolve opinion structures and culturally lay down models of behavior and information processing. They open you up to the possibility that everything you know is wrong.
We don't need new laws that control our consciousness and rigidly place it in a prison.
Cognitive liberty. The fact that as adults, if we're not hurting anybody else, we should have the right to explore the contours of our own consciousness without any mediation or legislation on the part of somebody else.
Reject authority. Authority is a lie.
Or is it perception?
Information is power, but we have to seize the opportunity.
Interchanging mind control, come with the
All right, cool. What's up, everybody? Back here in Psychedelic Studios. Mike Brancatelli here. Got Kevin Matthews with me, campaign director of Decriminalize Denver. Kevin, thanks for joining me today, man.
Hey, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to share our work with the audience, man. This is great.
Yeah, I mean, I am so thrilled to know that something like this is happening. And I kind of found out about it in a weird way. I'm a huge fan of Tom Woods and the Tom Woods Show. And I think someone sent me a link and they're like, dude, like Tom is totally ready to come on Psychedelic now. And and you got to check this out. And I listened to the show and I was like, wow, this is really, here you are, introducing this topic into sort of a new realm of people, kind of shaking off any of the baggage of crazy hippies that want to overthrow the government. And well, actually, I mean, I kind of still want to do that, but but yeah, it just, you sounded very reasonable and just good for our movement, good for us psychedelic people to be talking in the way that you talked on that show. And so I had to have you come on Psychedelic and talk more about Decriminalize Denver, which is the initiative to decriminalize the possession, use, and manufacture of psilocybin mushrooms in the city of Denver, Colorado. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that. Like, how did this get started? How did you get started on this project?
Yeah, well, it's been about just over a year in the making. I got involved initially back in kind of late December when I discovered that this was happening. I actually had listened to, what was it? It was the Joe Rogan and Paul Stamets, which was an incredible interview.
Yeah.
Paul Stamets he's a pretty famous mycologist. I'm sure you know who he is. But I came in, I listened to that interview, and I was amazed by everything Paul was talking about and how mycelium and mushrooms are just such an integral part of our experience here as humans. And it really kind of blew my mind. And if I remember correctly, he had talked about the initiative in California that was going on then. And I was like, man, I hope they're doing this sometime in Denver. That'd be great. And then like a week later, it's kind of how these things work. I hear about that. Hey, there's an initiative, a group that's forming in Denver. And so I jumped on that right away and met the right people at the right time and got involved. I actually started out with the campaign as kind of our social media guy and was building out the Facebook page and starting to make connections and build a mailing list. And then, yeah, I mentioned it's been about a year in the making. We just got our language approved back in early October, and we'd gone through a couple different iterations with the city at that point.
What does that mean, get the language approved?
Right. So Colorado is one of 26 states in the union where citizens actually have the ability to directly petition the government to change the law.
Amazing.
And so we had written a couple of different versions of the actual ballot language that we're going to be using. And the whole process with that basically is that you write your language, which will be the law, and had a couple iterations of that, one in March and one in May of this year. And both of those were actually approved by the city council. And then from city council, it gets sent off to the Denver Elections Division. And their attorneys basically look at the language to make sure it's legally sound and also makes sense to voters, basically. And so we had 2 rejections from city council. And then it was really in May when we got a lot more organized and structured, brought some attorneys on board and some legal and policy experts, and really started having a much deeper conversation about, what can we write here that will not only be accepted by the Denver Elections Division, but it's also palatable to the people of Denver. And
right.
So it's a whole process there.
Palatable. That's the key word, because it could be kind of scary for some people who are outside of this world and they don't know it, and they've heard all these scare stories and you know, all this kind of stuff that you can learn in like the DARE program and that indoctrination camp, and you know, so they see this thing and they're like, oh my God, you know. But getting the right language down is super important. You know, I mean, Terrence McKenna, one of my heroes, talks about how important the language is. And, you know, we need to sometimes invent new language to communicate new ideas. And this seems like this is one of those sort of new ideas. I mean, not really. I mean, mushrooms have been growing on the earth for a long time, but we're living in this kind of dark age where people need to be reintroduced to the amazing benefits that psilocybin can provide. So that's the trick, is sort of getting people on board with this language. What does the language sound like? What's the official sort of pitch, if you will?
It's three different things. So, and you're correct. We're working to decriminalize the personal possession and personal use of psilocybin mushrooms in Denver, and then personal possession includes the propagation or cultivation at home. And so in order to do that, we actually relied initially pretty heavily on cannabis legislation here in Denver. In particular, there was a ballot initiative in 2007. Denver was the first city in the country to actually decriminalize the adult possession and use of cannabis. And so we use that as a framework. And part of that is making the possession of the possession and use of psilocybin the lowest law enforcement priority. And so essentially with that, jaywalking would be a higher law enforcement priority than somebody being in possession of mushrooms. So that's the first step there. And that's a pretty standard legal way to decriminalize something. And then we wanted to take it a step further to really make this a true decriminalization measure. And so the other part of our language is that we're actually preventing the city from using any funds or resources to actually prosecute any individuals who happen to be arrested in the city for possession or use. And so with those two things together, it seems like a pretty bulletproof decriminalization measure. And then the third step is that, you know, this is in terms of language and reintroducing this responsibly back into the culture and education about psychedelics and psilocybin in particular. We want to work with the city on this and create, in a way, really make Denver a sanctuary city for people to explore the benefits of psilocybin and also to have more access to research and get some more data on what this would look like in a larger population. And so another part of our language includes the formation of our psilocybin mushroom policy review panel, where that'll actually be a city committee where members of city council, city attorneys, members who are chosen from our petitioners committee to sit on that team, and also health professionals and law enforcement are going to be on that city level committee if this passes. And then the role of that committee is really just to examine the impact of how decriminalizing psilocybin in Denver, what it looks like, if there's a reduction in addiction, if there's a reduction in crime, if there's a reduction in some of these kind of really big mental health statistics that we're facing as a country right now. Yeah. So, this is something that we want to include as many people as possible, because it's just so important that we're able to not only decriminalize, but a big part of our campaign is a massive education campaign to really talk about the benefits of psilocybin.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, anybody who has done psilocybin mushrooms, anyone who's taken it, chewed it, drank it, whatever, however you've ingested it, knows the benefits immediately firsthand from direct experience, right? And it's like,
absolutely,
yeah. And as you can attest, as I can attest, and I remember early on, when I first had my first trip, it was almost like, I just wanted to go over to people and shake them and say like, hey man, like this is the key. Like, don't you understand? But it really does require a whole lot more to do than that, but yeah, it's really, it's an awesome initiative. It's just amazing that this kind of thing can be put forward. And so you're using the framework of the cannabis initiative that went through, that's been, I mean, wildly successful, right? I mean, what is it, do you know offhand, like what that looks like? I mean, I always hear good things. Like I heard, I just hear things coming through the grapevine, if you will, like, oh, Colorado has made so much money off of marijuana that they actually have to give some money back to its citizens and taxes and these sorts of things. So are these like the myths of the West, or what's going on out there? It's been a success, hasn't it?
It has been a success. Denver's had there's been a lot of tax revenue from the recreational side of cannabis. And obviously, it seems like it's been a real boon for our economy out here. Lots of people are moving here. Denver's becoming, it's a city which is in many ways just a nexus of so many different cultures and belief systems. But it's like, cannabis has definitely had a huge impact here in terms of just industry and other things. And I can't speak directly to the cannabis industry. I'm not deeply involved with it, but it's been successful, and the recreational model has had some challenges too. There's a lot of corporate influence out here, and so it gets down to the question, like, is with cannabis, and this kind of relates to psychedelics and psilocybin measures, is how do we keep as much of this with psilocybin as open source as possible?
Right.
We really don't want to see it overtaken by some of these bigger corporate interests who really just value their bottom line over providing healing, naturally occurring medicines for people. And so, little bit of a different model there. I mean, a recreational model, I think, definitely works for cannabis, but in terms of mushrooms right now, the culture just isn't ready for that. And I think we have to take great care to make sure that we keep access as open as possible for psilocybin, which is why we believe that decriminalizing is a good first step. Because it's kind of like baby steps. We have to take this one step at a time, really, in terms of again, just rebranding that image away from the stigma of the 60s and 70s. Like we're not just a bunch of people who want to get stoned or high and party all the time. Like, we're actually using psilocybin mushrooms to really positively impact our lives and the lives of the people around us and in our communities. And it's personally, I believe that psilocybin has a real potential there to solve, or at least really positively, directly impact a lot of these challenges we're facing. And so keeping it accessible is a big thing. And with our campaign in particular, we don't believe anyone should go to jail or face any criminal penalties for possessing or using something that occurs or grows naturally,
Right.
And
Yeah.
so our mission here is really, as a first step to decriminalize, is to keep individuals out of jail, keep our families together, and then give our vets and give people with some of these really extreme traumas and depression and things like that an opportunity to explore the power of psilocybin in a safe place.
Yeah, no, that's hugely important. I want to talk about a couple of those things you just mentioned. One of the things that it reminded me of, the decriminalization. I mean, this differs from legalization. This differs from different kinds of models of introducing something into society. And like, I remember in New York, the police, like, I don't know if it was like a strike. There was something that was going on with the police in New York. I can't remember, but they came out and they were like, we're only going to be making necessary arrests during this downtime of police, like, striking because they were upset with the mayor or something like that. And I remember reading that and being like, shouldn't that be like all the time? Like, shouldn't you only be making arrests like when necessary all the time? And like, if you look at like the statistics, it's like crime went down, all this stuff went down because you didn't have these police out there that were looking for trouble, looking to make quotas, incentivized to write tickets and stop and frisk people and find, oh, this guy's got like a dime bag of marijuana on him. He's got, so it's like, Yeah, so that's just funny because it's like, yeah, allow people to have the freedom to go about doing things that are natural, for one, in the environment, and also just not making it a priority to really harass people for things that could be majorly therapeutic, and that's one of the things I want to talk about now. And I guess we should start off. You mentioned, I think, veterans and depression, and that's such a huge thing. And I'm somebody that has struggled with depression quite a bit, and have seen great relief through the use of psychedelics, including psilocybin mushrooms. So I want to know a little bit about your story. I think you had mentioned on Tom's show that you were in the military. Is that right?
That is right.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. Yeah.
I was a cadet at West Point at the U.S. Military Academy,
Okay,
and I'd spent a decade of my life working to get in there. It's a pretty highly competitive program to get into, and for good reason. They train our militaries. They train the really the next generation of the U.S. Army's officers. And so for me, I wanted to be a career military officer. And when I was at the academy, a lot of things started breaking down for me. But the one thing was that I was suffering from major depression, and there were just nothing was working. For a little while there, while I was at the academy, I was on, sleep aid, pharmaceuticals, and also antidepressants, and that it's not a good environment to be depressed in because it's extremely demanding of your time and your energy. And so I ended up receiving an honorable discharge and a medical retirement from the U.S. Army. And for me, it was life shattering because I had spent so long trying to get in there, and really the majority of my life was just completely focused on being an Army officer. And then I was on this after I left, this search for self and search for meaning, because I didn't know who the hell I was anymore. My entire construct of who I thought I was had been shattered really overnight. And so I floated for a number of years, and then found this amazing community in Denver. Denver has a very, very strong, I don't know, for lack of a better term, maybe transformational community.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And that's are you originally from there, or?
I am. Yeah. I grew up in Denver.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went to West Point, and then you came back. Yeah.
And I did. Yeah. Promptly came back. And I got involved with this amazing community out here of individuals who really seemed to be on just something different, kind of the Burning Man crowd, kind of some of the festival scene, but also these were people who were, they just had something else going on about them. They seemed much more dynamic and whole as individuals. So I was really very attracted to that. And
can I ask you, Kevin, how, I have a lot of listeners that message me a lot of times. I'm recalling one recently from a college student who was telling me, like, listen, I listen to your show and I love what you talk about and, all this kind of stuff, but I have trouble having these kinds of conversations and finding other people like that. So you had just mentioned kind of getting into that network and establishing yourself within this community. Can you talk a little bit about maybe how you had, done that, for some listeners out there who are looking to broaden their connections with people who are involved in things like this?
Sure. Well, for me, I started meditating. Excellent. And started really exploring my inner dimensions, exploring how my mind worked. I really went on this tangent for a number of years of reading about psychology and reading about just how to be a human, how to
yeah, they don't really teach you that in school too much, right?
They don't really teach you that in school too much, and it was fascinating because I was introduced internally to this entire cosmos that existed inside of me, and that I had never really explored before. And like, I think so that led me to find the others, right? Find other people
right.
who were doing this. And Denver's a great place for it, like I said, because there's a very strong community here in Denver, but it's And in many ways, I found myself at the right place at the right time to meet the right people, just kind of really stepping out of my shell and searching for events. I mean, back then Facebook was really barely getting started, but I could use Facebook. Well, I'll say it's not as prolific as it is right now, but if you're in, I would say anybody who's in any community in the U.S., there is an underground of this culture. The culture exists, whether it's Burning Man, whether it's the jam band scene. But it seems like there's a lot of stuff going on, and I think it's kind of twofold, right? Like you start exploring this inner world, start meditating, start getting deeper into this, your own physiology and how your body works and how your mind works and how your emotions work and how all these things are deeply interconnected that make up the essence of who you are as an individual. And so it's like that. And then for me, stepping out of my shell and reaching out and trying to find other people. And I would bet that anybody could do a search for events online, and find those kinds of people, whether it's going to even starting out as going to like a yoga or a meditation studio.
Right. Yeah.
Getting
It might be a
involved
little
with classes there.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. And it might be a little uncomfortable at first, you're not sure what kind of territory you're in, but you soon, become comfortable in that, because you're establishing yourself as with a new identity, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was what you were going through. So you were still depressed during this time, or you're kind of working on it. It's improving through meditation and things like this. And is that right?
Yeah, that is right. I was working on it, and then I was introduced to mushrooms in a pretty big way. I think the first big trip that I had was probably 4 or 5 grams with some friends about 10 years ago.
Nice.
And I had no idea what to expect, but it was an incredible experience. Just the sense of belonging and community and family from that experience, walking around the streets of Denver, going to a playground and looking at the stars and just being outside and getting reconnected with that part of myself. So yeah, that, I'm not the kind of person that takes mushrooms very often, and I use them in a very therapeutic manner.
Yeah.
And which is not to say that people should only use them that way,
Right.
But it's like, it opened up a whole new world for me that I had no idea existed. And the fact that I could be around people who understood what I was going through and be there as a support with these experiences, especially integrating the experience afterwards is so important. And
yeah. What was that like? Like after you had this, you just, I know how difficult it is sometimes to explain like an experience, it's just like,
Sure.
Oh, these colors or lights or these feelings or, this sort of thing. I sure try my best sometimes, but, after that, like kind of opening, I guess you would call it, like this maybe awakening or this veil lifting, what was that experience like for you? You must have been like, you're totally blown away. Your first mushroom trip, you're 4 or 5 grams, walking around Denver, looking at the stars, contemplating the infinite, bonding with people, reconnecting, feeling like the family of the human species of the planet that we're on. And then after, well, then what? What did you think?
I cried a lot that night.
Yeah.
It was the first time I'd cried like that in a long time.
Wow.
Just allowing that release to come through.
Right.
And then, I felt like a little baby in a bunch, meaning I'm rebirthed into this new experience of the world with an entirely different new perspective. And I think you asked if I'm still depressed. Like, I still have symptoms from time to time. I know how to manage them, much more better now, much more effectively now. It's not something that controls me really nearly at all to the extent that it used to, because, that's one thing mushrooms do, is open us up to possibility.
Right.
and to make new, make new decisions about who we are in this world. And so for me, it was like I was, I mean, it's like I really did feel truly in a sense of being reborn in a way.
Yeah.
And then
You got a software update.
it got a little software update. Yeah, got a little upgraded, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, look at this amazing world and all these really cool things that are actually going on here.
Right.
Outside of the box that depression had created, that I was living inside of, and it didn't all go away overnight. Obviously, there's the what's the afterglow, and that was a really great couple of days. But then it was like real work, like what am I doing with my life, and what's the kind of person I want to be, and how do I start to make different choices, or even just get a handle on some of this stuff. And so it's like, it's kind of one step at a time. And again, having that support group, having friends who can listen and who've been through this experience and who are definitely much wiser than I am in a lot of different ways was a huge benefit.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing, Kevin, that what you just said about how, looking at your life and trying to get things together and just decide who you want to be. I mean, this isn't what I think the average person who isn't aware of these, of psychedelics and psilocybin, the average person, like, I don't know, I think of someone like maybe like my parents or something, as much as I try and explain it to them, they would still have this idea of like this out of control sort of, oh no, you're on drugs, and now you're taking drugs and you're trying to get your life together. Isn't that? I feel like that's one of the most interesting things that we can talk about. With in regards to psychedelics. I mean, I had that happen recently with ayahuasca. I was in Peru. I was drinking ayahuasca, and I was like, my God, I can't stay here anymore. I need to like go home and like pay credit card bills.
Right.
Life
is trying to always pull us back into the daily grind.
Yeah.
Which is, we can't escape that. Like I don't think we're supposed to.
Right.
I think but if we can, mushrooms, at least for me, tend to give me more, with that perspective comes the power to take more responsibility for my stuff. But it's like, paying the bills and filling up the gas tank. And I have a family, I have my wife and I've been married for about 5 years now. We have a 4-year-old, and
nice.
It's like we have responsibilities. We need our egos. We can't float off in the ethers stoned all the time.
Right.
But there's value there. There's value to going there and then coming back with fresh ideas and new ways of thinking about the world. It's like a mini
hero's journey. Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, I think, it kind of reminds me, it's, if we can orient ourselves to recognize that we are the heroes of our own journey all the time.
Right.
Like we have control over our life and how we want it to look. And sometimes we need help with, I think mushrooms can be a huge technology for empowering individuals to really make an impact in their lives and other people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've referred to it as that too, like technology, and I think like
technology.
Like Stanislav Grof, I think, was saying that. What was this quote? He said like we will look at psychedelics in the way that people had looked at the microscope to look at atoms and the telescope to look at this cosmos. We will look at psychedelics in the same way as a tool to look at inside of the mind. And it really is. It is like this technology. It's this like organic technology that's, that we just need to be free enough to be able to plug it in every once in a while.
Exactly.
It's truly amazing. So like you got on that path. You had this experience, and then what did? Actually, I'm curious. After you had this experience, what you were talking about how you were interested in the military for so long, and you had went to West Point to become a military cadet and everything. Did your opinions or your views by any chance happen to shift in terms of how you thought about military or anything like that? I'm curious to know.
A little bit. And I still have a lot of friends who graduated and who've been deployed and who fought our nation's wars, and gosh, I mean, they changed a little bit. I mean, I recognize that path was not for me.
Right.
I had other things to do with my life, but the experience was just so valuable because it's something not a lot of people get to partake in. And I have the utmost respect and honor for sense of really honoring our veterans, and in a big way, this medicine can really help our veterans. We're working with a group called Veterans for Natural Rights, and they're big advocates of plant medicine and naturally occurring medicine to help vets get through the traumas they've experienced from their time in the military. And
right.
It's been incredible to just hear some of the stories that these guys have gone through. These men and women have gone through with their time in the military and then coming out the other side. In a lot of ways, cannabis is a huge part in that culture.
Mm-hmm.
As a really effective tool or a really effective technology for managing their post-traumatic stress and depression. And so, yeah, we have a lot of stuff in this country to talk about, in terms of all these big conversations around the military industrial complex or the pharmaceutical industrial complex or
right.
The prison industrial complex.
Yes,
these are big issues. And again, I think really, really deeply believe mushrooms are something that can start to make some real change at a cultural level. It's just a matter of doing it, responsibly in a way that doesn't turn people off, in a way that encourages individuals to want to explore this, whether through direct experience or through doing a little bit of research and seeing the benefits.
Yeah, and there's a good amount of research out there now. I mean, there's places like the Hefter Institute, the Beckley Foundation, Imperial
Mm-hmm.
College of London, MAPS. There's lots of organizations out there that are doing amazing work, and it's just and obviously and your organization too, Decriminalize Denver, with the initiative that you guys are doing, but these other organizations with their research. It's really helping further the conversation and create and engage with normal citizens. I don't know what to call them, like normal, but people that are outside of the knowledge of these things to really introduce something that makes sense. That says, hey, look, if we can help people here, if we can help veterans integrate back into society with something here, isn't that worth a shot? And so has this been part of I guess like your language as well? Like, have you been in conversations with people or in the sort of daily tasks that you're performing? Is this something that's coming up often, kind of citing maybe statistics or things like that? What kind of things do you sort of tend to talk about a lot when it comes down to these things with PTSD and veterans and stuff? Do you get into a lot of conversations about that with people?
I do. People are surprised because, like you said, most individuals don't even know there's research going on. We live in kind of this. At least I feel like sometimes I'm in an echo chamber because a lot of the individuals I speak with, of course, know about all the research and they've used psilocybin and other psychedelics, and so they get it. And then I think it's easy to forget that a big majority of the population hasn't really heard about the amazing work that's coming out of organizations like MAPS and like Hefter and Beckley and NYU and Johns Hopkins.
Right, Johns Hopkins, yeah.
Yeah, and like that's honestly, so with our campaign, in terms of the research that we've cited, we're focused much more on public health and safety, and what the risk is, and kind of looking at arrest statistics here in Denver, And so that's part of our conversation. But really the bigger part is that when we bring up like, man, these top universities like Johns Hopkins have been conducting this research, and the research is showing incredible results to help really almost heal people of these issues they're going through. I think that's the one thing that gets people who are on the fence over to a yes, I'll support this. And then with individuals for some individuals who might initially be a no, or I don't want to support this, I don't want to decriminalize this drug. As soon as we start mentioning some of the amazing clinical research that's come out and the way that it's impacting people, they start to get curious. At the very least, they might go from being a no to sitting on the fence. Right. But mostly in Denver, like our amount of support has been overwhelmingly positive. We had some scientific polling that was conducted last summer, and it turns out that 45% of Denver voters would support this, which is a huge support, huge baseline support right there. Yeah, and then another 20% who are a maybe, which means that there's the possibility of at a minimum having 65% of people in Denver support this. And the really cool thing about that polling was that it was done over landline telephone. People who still have landlines in their home.
Oh wow!
Which was cool because that indicates a generally more like an older demographic.
Right. Yeah. I haven't had a landline since I don't know, like I was 10 years old. Yeah.
Right. So it's, the support is there. It's just a matter of our team making contact with potential voters.
Yeah.
And right now we're collecting signatures. So it's been really amazing so far just to hear some of these stories from people who, they see our guys out there in the field, carrying our clipboard. And oftentimes people will stop what they're doing and run up to us and say, I've heard about you guys. I want to sign this thing. Let's get it on the ballot. Let's make this real. And then they share a story about how it's directly impacted them or their family members.
Excellent. So, yeah. So that's a great, directly affected them or their family members, right? By psilocybin mushrooms actually having a positive effect for somebody. What is in Denver? What would be like? What is affecting the city or the population of the city that psilocybin mushrooms could have the most impact for? So essentially, like I know, like back in my hometown, just like right outside of New York City, there was like a big like opioid. I mean, I know there's an opioid epidemic across the country, but this was a thing that had happened in my town where I grew up, where I went to high school. I guess it kind of started happening like right after I graduated, and it was just weird to see like people I heard about, like, oh, this person's addicted to heroin now and these sorts of things. So the way that I would think would be like, well, maybe introducing psilocybin, as something that could potentially help with that, because that is one of the things that psilocybin could potentially help with. Maybe that would be something that could resonate with these families to be on board with this message. So is there something that really stands out that's in Denver, or is it a combination of different things that maybe,
Well, you nailed it on the head. I mean, opioid abuse and dependence is huge. Denver, actually, our city council in Denver just signed a trial site for a safe injection center for opioids. And
man, Denver really is leading the way. Damn,
it's there, and it's on a trial. But if it's anything like, I mean, look, if we use Portugal as a model for how decriminalizing drugs really can work and have a huge impact, that's a safe injection site is definitely one thing here. And so I think that's getting started pretty soon with that trial of that first site. So opioid abuse and dependence. There was a small study that was done a number of years ago that showed that that psychedelic use of psychedelics, including psilocybin, reduces past year odds of opioid abuse and opioid use. And so that's absolutely one area. And then, like all major, well, just like across the country, we have this mental health crisis right now.
Yeah.
Skyrocketing rates of anxiety and depression. And Denver's no different. Mental health treatment options are a really, really amazing thing, and we need more options. We need better options, I think. Just speaking from personal experience, like we need different options, and so those are like the two kind of main things in Denver right now in terms of what's going on here.
Right.
And then it's that I have a friend of our campaign, friend of mine, who is actually using psilocybin with psychiatric approval to treat his complex multi-symptom PTSD.
With psychiatric approval.
With psychiatric approval. So are you familiar with the right to try law?
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So explain this a little bit, because this is really interesting. And especially for a lot of people. So Trump signed this into law, right?
He did.
It's the Right to Try Act, which means that you have is it for treatment resistant only, or?
It's so anyone who has a terminal illness or a life-threatening condition, for which traditional protocols have been unsuccessful.
Right.
They have a right to use any substance that's passed a phase 1 clinical trial through the FDA.
And this is federal.
That's federal.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. This is good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. So which is interesting because Colorado has actually had a right to try law since 2014. The language of each one's a little bit different, but they both accomplish pretty much the same thing. And so, yeah, this gentleman is, he lives up in Boulder, which is just north of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And back in March, he received his first prescription for psilocybin mushrooms. And in the last, about 7 or 8 months since he's been using psilocybin, his entire medical team is blown away. This individual has tumors all up and down his spine and in his brain. And like I mentioned, complex PTSD from many, many, many different things that have happened to him in his life. And the results of him using psilocybin on a weekly basis, his psychiatrist said, is nothing short of miraculous in terms of his change in behavior and his ability to basically be a functioning member of society and really in his own life, to be able to manage his own life in a way that's totally new for him. And yeah, so he takes 1.5 to 2 grams once every 7 to 10 days. And that's it. It manages his pain, and it manages his mental state in a way that he's never had before.
Which is super important. I mean, this is really important. I remember I had a guest on the show a little while ago, Robert Barnhart, who created a documentary called A New Understanding, the Science of Psilocybin, and where he showed, and I think it was Johns Hopkins, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was, where they had like 80% of the patients who were taking psilocybin who were diagnosed with terminal diseases or illnesses reported that they no longer, they had this incredible release, this liberation, this freedom, this like acceptance and peace, which is just, it's like one of the greatest gifts that you can give to somebody who's in that state, in that stage. So that's tremendous. Right.
Like they were no longer afraid of death. They'd accepted their mortality, and they were at peace.
Right.
And that's another huge thing too, because we have a very, from what I understand anyway, in comparison to other cultures, a very different perspective of death and dying in our culture here. And so, it seems to be something that people are very afraid of, for good reason. We're talking about our mortality here, and we're all going to die someday. But it's like being able to, especially if you have a terminal illness or like a sudden onset cancer or something that, and you feel like that, maybe the sense of being robbed of some more time, like to have an experience that psilocybin can provide, where it's not only the most profound spiritual experience they've had in their entire life, but they're also released from their burden of anguish and suffering from knowing that they're going to pass away sooner than they had expected. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
and
amazing.
that just releases a lot of stress and tension off of them and the families and everything. And yeah, it's such a good thing. I mean, there's so many, we're talking about this amazing fungus, this amazing compound in this mushroom that has been growing on the planet for thousands of years. And it's like, we live in this culture nowadays where for the most part, people seem to think, well, if you have this, you take this, or if you have this, you take this. But here we're talking about a wide variety of things that one thing can accomplish, which is just awesome. Because I see, like, my vision is, I see a tremendous like ripple effect. Like, if we can make this happen in Denver, and it can show, what we all hope it can show, then, it's like the sky's the limit in terms of improving sort of like almost every facet of life. I mean, would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
So what does your vision look like? Because I mean, I know on the website, which is really nice, by the way, great website. It says we envision a society where individuals can use psilocybin mushrooms without fear of criminal or civil penalties. Psilocybin is shown to reduce psychological stress and suicidality, which is, I mean, that's huge, right? Because suicide rates are high as well. Opioid use, like we had just talked about, and people being physiologically safe and non-addictive. So the vision, that vision is amazing. And like, where do you see it, like, beyond that? Like, give me the big picture. Like, what's Kevin Matthews' like dream of psilocybin? I don't know if you want to, maybe just give him a little teaser, or if you want to go the whole nine, but I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So we're talking about access, right? Decriminalizing is the first step in terms of responsibly reintegrating, at the very least, an understanding of the potential of psilocybin into our culture. I think the next logical step after that would be something like a regulated medical model, where you have psilocybin treatment centers where you can check in for a weekend and have the support you need, and have a staff that's available to guide you through the process. Have individuals who are trained in this work. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know when necessarily that could happen. That's certainly in the conversation with us as a next step, and I think a big part of this is going to be working with other jurisdictions across the country to, at the very least, get a decriminalization model on their ballot as well, because we fully intend, we're not the only people doing this work right now. We fully intend to work with other individuals and other organizations to spread this like a mycelium across the entire country. Like that's, and like, honestly, that's how I see it happening. I think, when we're successful in Denver, all it's going to take for us to really have this amazing conversation and make it more broad is to get on the ballot.
Right.
Once we're on the ballot, then we're successful, because then it's really going to be front and center. And I think people will start talking about this a lot more.
Yeah. Can you quick get to getting on the ballot? So the election is being held on May 7th of 2019. What does it take to get on the ballot?
Yep. May 7th, 2019. We need 4,726 valid signatures from City and County of Denver registered voters.
Okay.
And we're just over 4,000 signatures now.
Oh, great.
And yeah, we have until January 7th is our deadline. And it's been awesome because in the last 2 weeks, we've pretty much doubled our volunteer force. And man, I want to say that none of this would be happening without the amazing individuals who make up our team, our volunteers, our petitioners committee, our campaign staff. Like, we're all so passionate about this and want to see this go through. So, yep, January 7th is the deadline, and we have our individuals and organizers and volunteers are out every single day in Denver collecting signatures and really doing a really big final push for the last about 5 weeks now. So we'll hear when we turn in our signatures in January. We'll hear back probably late January or early February, no later than I think February 2nd or 3rd, on whether or not we've made the ballot. And we intend to turn in well over the required amount.
Great. Yeah. And if someone wants to sign the petition online, they can do that as well, but they have to be a resident of Denver, right?
They have to be a resident of Denver and a registered voter, and you have to sign it in person.
Oh, you have to sign it in person. Okay.
Yep. There's no online petition yet.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be great? Man, we'd have our signatures by now. If we could do an online petition, that'd be amazing.
Okay.
But yeah, we have guys collecting. We're at every single major grocery store. We go to all of the venues in Denver. And then all utilizing our personal networks as well. And we're doing great. Our team is amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. Nice. Yeah. So, I was just like, as I'm like looking, through the website, I see that you also have, an available option here to donate. So can you talk a little bit about that? Is that's basically, that could be for anybody, right?
That can be for anybody. Yes, that's for anybody. We would love, in terms of support, donations are amazing. We have, we've been able to raise a little bit of donations for the campaign right now. It's really going to be something for the next 5 weeks to be able to really take care of our volunteers and get some of the resources that we need as a campaign. The donation link is on the website, and that's there for anyone. Anyone can use that, and we'd be extremely grateful for any donations that come in.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you guys believe in this and you want to support this and help Kevin and Decriminalize Denver out, go to decriminalizedenver.org and click on the please donate here button, that nice purple button there. And pretty self-explanatory. Yeah. Easy to navigate. Thanks, website. So this is really great. And that's sort of how I've run my podcast model to a certain extent. I have a couple sponsors now, but I also utilize Patreon for donations. And it's just this kind of like, if you love this, if you care about this, please support it. And people seem to really respond to that. So that's awesome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Any amount helps. I mean, it's even also sharing our socials. If you follow us at Decriminalize Denver on Facebook and Instagram, like the biggest part here is spreading awareness. And then of course, we're a campaign. So we do need money to run this thing. And we don't quite know who our opposition is yet and how much they're going to have at their disposal, what their resources look like. But this is something that's, every single thing counts,
Yeah. Every little bit counts. I mean, that's the key with everything in life. I mean, it's just, if you're interested in something, if you're looking to make a change, it's this just a little bit every day, one foot in front of the other, all those good kind of cliched sayings, but they're true. They're cliche for a reason because they're true. Every little bit that you can do. I just went out and hit the road today and ran 1.6 miles. I haven't ran in 5 months. I've just been eating spaghetti and turkey and stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting back to it. I'm gonna put my running shoes on. I'm gonna go out there. I'm just gonna run for a little bit and I'm just gonna put it in every day. Just gonna keep showing up every day. So that's my message to inspire you people out there. I don't know.
Totally.
but yeah, you mentioned, Kevin, you don't know who your opposition is yet. And I guess I got to kind of have maybe some kind of idea. I mean, I think maybe it's a little different because, you're in Denver and things are kind of more localized there. But in general, I would think that you have so many people here that are corporations and lobbyists and, politicians and, DEA, I don't know. It seems that things are sort of changing and shifting, and maybe there's some good people that are getting into these organizations that actually care and want to make a difference. But I had a friend, who he wrote a book. He's gonna kill me because I don't remember the name of his book, but it's about the addiction recovery treatment facilities and how they're just sucking money out of people and really kind of scamming people and stuff. They're running on this model, the traditional sort of rehab facility clinic. So, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about, the private prisons and, the pharmaceutical industry and right. I mean, drug cartels or whatever it is. So I don't know if this necessarily all applies to what you have going on there in Denver, but yeah, I mean, have you noticed, have you heard anything about anybody trying to maybe thwart your efforts to pass this?
Not yet. And we can make some guesses about who that opposition might be.
Right.
They're waiting for us to get on the ballot.
They're waiting for you to start making some real noise in the legal framework. Well, I mean, look, this is something that it can impact people for the better. Major change, and we can see that change in the outlook of people after having profound experiences and healing and integrating their traumas and how that can affect the society and as a whole. And so this is something that can massively actually make America great again, or make, this could really all these hacky campaign slogans change you can believe in and do all this. This is something that can really actually accomplish that. So I wish you the best of luck. I'm going to be supporting this as much as I possibly can. And again, people go to decriminalizedenver.org. Follow them on Instagram. It's Decriminalize Denver everywhere.
Yep, that's right. Everywhere.
Instagram, Facebook, and
Kevin
said,
Facebook
share
and
it.
Instagram. Yep.
Yeah, share it, spread the word, get it out there, and yeah, Kevin, I look forward to actually meeting up with you when I come to Denver in about a month and a half and getting involved. I'd love to volunteer. So,
Thank you, Mike.
let me know what I got to do to be a part of that when I get out there. And any parting words that you'd like to share?
Well, I really want to say that I appreciate, again, having me on your show and allowing us to share our work with your audience. And yeah, to really echo what you just said, this is something that can change the world. We can start here in Denver. Denver can be a good working model for how this can work, how this can work, and how we can spread awareness and create really strong, powerful, true impact and change in people's lives.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. This is the change that we need, folks. This is reducing the paradigm of fear and reintroducing a new one of love and compassion. So thank you for your excellent work, Kevin. Thanks again for being on the show, and good luck with you with everything.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, hope you guys enjoyed that show as much as I did. You know what to do if you love this show. Share it, like it, subscribe. Wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe. And go on to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating and review. Go to Patreon and show your support. Throw $1 or $2 or whatever you can our way at patreon.com/MikeBrank. You can also go to MikeBrank.com, check out my website, and make a PayPal donation if you like as well. Check out hempbombs.com for all your CBD urges, desires, and needs, and get 15% off when you enter the code Mike15 at checkout. Go to bsynchro.com and check out all of their plant-based ketogenic nutrition products. Put in Psychedelic and get 20% off. Or don't do any of that stuff and just listen to the show and enjoy the hell out of it. And know I love you anyway. So, thanks for listening. Until next time, peace out.